This episode contains discussions of sensitive topics, including sexual violence, child exploitation, psychological abuse, and relatable topics. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Crime Salad. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ricky.
And this week we're digging right into our salad bowls to bring forward a topic that is super important: child exploitation and sex trafficking. It's been sitting on our to-do list for a bit now, and although there's a number of different types of trafficking, our main focus in this episode is the importance of protecting the children around us. Those who are unable to stand up for themselves and need stronger support and safeguarding. We will be covering the issues within our current system. And with that in mind, as we dig into this episode, which is a little different from our normal style, please know that we are not experts in this field. However, this topic is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and we share this issue with an overwhelming sense of love and support for victims who have experienced or are facing similar situations. Your mental health and well-being is the highest priority. Please check out the hotline information in the episode's description if you are needing support. Now, while I was researching this very hidden under the rug kind of topic, I came across this incredible organization that provides training for anyone regardless of your education. It's called Watchful Eye: Safeguarding Children from Sex Abuse and Exploitation. That link will be in our description, and it's a great way to educate yourself and for you to be more alert on things and what to look out for. It's a very informative and helpful guide if you're looking to do your part. And again, all of our links for support and other things will be in our description. Thanks for tuning in, and well, here we go. Evil doesn't have a limit. Evil has a way of disregarding someone's boundaries, and it often hunts down those who are most vulnerable, particularly individuals who are desperate to find a way out of their current living situation. Someone might be facing challenges such as poverty, homelessness, mental health struggles, financial difficulties, or even battling a drug addiction. Victims of exploitation aren't always bound by physical restraints. They're trapped by psychological abuse, fear, manipulation, sometimes in their very own houses, while perpetrators use the failures within the child welfare protection systems to their advantage. Sexual exploitation involves coercion or abuse of power as bait, and once you've been groomed and trapped, next is forcing a victim into commercial sex acts while the perpetrator is profiting from you at your expense, all while completely disregarding any consent or understanding for the individual being exploited. And this throws any type of fairness or humanity out the window. It's a devastating crime that aims to completely break down a person and to rewire someone to believe that their only purpose in life is what they've been coerced into doing. It's a horrifying reality that countless victims face daily. Many of them are children, and many with no way out. There are many statistics out there that highlight the impact of child exploitation in our country, and unfortunately, that percentage is on the rise. So in 2020, online solicitation and recruitment of children for sex trafficking, labor trafficking, and broader sexual abuse crimes rose by 22%. Traffickers often lure children with promises of employment, financial support, clothes, maybe it's a car, maybe it's some other material type thing, or a relationship, or educational opportunities. Once their victim has fallen into their trap, dehumanizing their victims follow. To them, their victim is more of an object or a tool rather than a person with feelings and rights. A perpetrator's plan is to gain full control over their victims, to make them their property. The loss of humanity and autonomy for the victim is a devastating consequence, underscoring the importance of raising awareness and taking action to prevent and address sex exploitation. So, Ricky, in your own words, how would you describe what child sex trafficking is?
Honestly, it's hard to say. I guess when I think of it, it would be like your typical white van scenario. So like kidnapping, something like that, abduction.
Yeah, and it most definitely can be. However, the majority of child sex trafficking victims are perpetrated by people who they know. When I first found this out, I was like, my jaw was on the floor. It's so hard to believe that these are people you know. So to a child, this may be parents, aunts, uncles. According to the U.S. Department of State, their website states that in a study conducted in 2023, researchers from the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at Baylor College of Medicine's anti-human trafficking program discovered some alarming statistics. So there was a study of 39 familial trafficking cases in the U.S., and 66.7% of the traffickers were parents, while 12.8% were uncles or aunts, and 3.2% were other family members.
Wow. So basically what we're saying is all of them originated from family, people that they trust.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And that 66.7% being the parents is huge.
Right.
I mean, we're both parents, and I can't even imagine that a parent would do that to their child.
I mean, we've heard of it. Like, I've heard of those types of stories in the past, but I would have never imagined it was this common.
And although it's most common for children to be victims, in familial trafficking, it can happen to anyone, regardless of age or gender.
I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around how a family member could do this to a child, someone they're supposed to love and care about. Now, is this something that's for like financial gain or to fuel an addiction or maybe just like control of some sort?
Yeah, usually it's one of those things. They could be desperate to make money. Maybe they're needing money for food, rent, or to pay bills. And it doesn't always stem from poverty. It can also occur in well-off families as well. Traffickers on the outside, they may appear normal, even wealthy individuals. Often there is a generational pattern of exploitation, though it's not always the case. Generational exploitation is pretty disturbing because it's a pattern that repeats itself, and it becomes pretty much normal within the family. Like, well, this is what the children do in this family.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. Children are not usually forced aggressively into exploitation, although that can't be completely ruled out. But it's often that children are severely manipulated and emotionally abused. Exploitation can start as early as infancy, as younger children are often more vulnerable. However, the most common age range for recruitment tends to be between 10 and 13 years old. From a child's standpoint, they might not understand that what's happening to them is even wrong, or maybe they might not understand that they are actually being groomed and trafficked. There are a number of cases where a perpetrator has forced drugs onto victims to make them addicted, and then forcing them into commercial sex acts to fund both of their addictions. And often, sadly, it's common for a child victim to grow up and become recruiters or perpetrators as well.
I mean, again, this is all they know. If you think back to when you were a child, we're taught to obey adults, listen to them, take their direction, right? The adult is always right.
Yeah, so perpetrators, they know, they're well aware that children are often naive and they usually fully trust adults. And to make matters worse, if a victim is sensing something's wrong or they need to get out of this situation, they might be too scared or feel isolated or powerless, feeling like no one would help them.
And to be honest, for the people who actually, break that cycle and actually find support, like that has to be incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. 15 million children are exploited every year in the U.S. alone. Let that sink in for a minute. 15 million children. And to put that into perspective, in an average neighborhood, this means that approximately 1 in every 5 households has a child who is being exploited. This alarming reality highlights a heartbreaking crisis that demands our immediate attention and action. While 8 million cases of child exploitation are reported annually, experts agree the true number is likely far higher, which is where the estimated 15 million comes from. To them, it seems more of a realistic number. And this is because not every case is reported. Not every case is investigated, and not every child is given access to schooling where typically teachers or school personnel would be able to step in or report. And same goes with healthcare providers, where signs of exploitation might be noticed. The lack of visibility means that many victims remain hidden.
And we've seen this in the past with cases that we've done that, maybe they knew about 3 children who were in grade school, but there was like a child back home who was kept in a cage, and basically they were invisible. No one knew about them.
Yeah.
They were never put into the system.
Yeah, or even neighbors are like, I didn't even know they had kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, out of the staggering 8 million children whose exploitation is actually reported, only about 56% of those cases are ever investigated.
So what about that other half?
Right? The situation becomes even more troubling when you realize that only 3% of reported children are actually placed in some kind of protective living situation. So that means that 97% of reported children who have faced physical harm or exploitation are left without any protective care.
So basically, we're dealing with a broken system.
Yeah, many people believe reunification is the primary focus of child welfare systems. And while it is a core principle, the ultimate goal, according to our system, is always the safety and well-being of the child. However, the system faces significant challenges at times, which unfortunately has failed children. Not to mention, when something gets reported and investigated, a lot of these cases don't actually get labeled as trafficking due to varying legal procedures. And some of the significant challenges that child welfare agencies are known to have could be overwhelming caseloads, limited resources, and delayed investigations, which often prevent timely action, leaving many children without the care they urgently need. While some children are helped, far too many fall through the cracks, underscoring the need for improvement within our child protection agencies.
It's really just a sad reality.
Yeah.
And even though this wasn't sex trafficking, we've seen examples of this even with one of our more popular cases that we've covered, baby Dylan. The baby should have never went back to the family.
No. So there's this woman by the name of Jessa Dillow Crisp. And I know, Ricky, I've been talking to you about her for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
She's pretty amazing. She is a co-founder of Bridge Hope and shared her unimaginable story that is so heartbreaking, yet it's so inspirational at the same time. And today she uses her experience to help others. She was trafficked by her own family starting at a young age. And with that, she endured years of abuse. Born in 1988 in Canada, she grew up in a household that should have been a place for safety. Instead, it became the foundation of her trafficking experience. She was subjected to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse starting at the age of 10 years old.
It's terrible.
She was forced into producing child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, which is defined as imagery or videos that show the forced and brutal sexual abuse of children that is shared across the internet. And to add to that, the U.S. is the largest producer and consumer of CSAM in the world. There has been a huge increase online over the last 5 years, and today millions of children are victims of CSAM, which is only creating this normalcy to have sex with minors. Jessa was exposed to pimps and pedophiles in nearby neighborhoods, all while living under the roof of her parents in Canada, who were fully supporting this. And she would eventually cross the border into the United States to be exposed to even more. A young child who should have been in school, making friends, playing sports, was visiting brothels, hotels, and even went to organized events where her abusers profited from her suffering. Jessa's experiences, without a doubt, had to have left unhealable wounds because she was affected by the very individuals who were in a position of trust, and they were meant to protect her. And she was forced to experience things that no child should ever have to experience. And to her, it felt like this was normal.
Yeah, I mean, this was her normal. This is all she knew.
Yeah, I mean, as a child, it felt strange when she would see kids, playing outside. She would wonder why her life was different. But for the most part, there was no one who cared, because even police officers were some of her buyers. There were multiple times that she was handcuffed, raped, and told that if she told anyone, she would be put in jail. Police officers who had taken an oath to serve and protect. So now, if the police were involved in this too, who is really there to protect her?
You'd lose complete trust in anyone and everyone at this point.
Yeah, and this is what makes her story so impactful to so many people, because eventually she got out. She got help, and she was determined to help others with her story. There were extreme times where she would be gang raped, and she recounted how she witnessed someone who she was very close with get tortured, and that same person tragically died in front of her eyes.
Wow.
One of the most heartbreaking aspects of Jessa's story is the psychological manipulation she endured. Her traffickers convinced her that she was worthless, that her only value was being exploited. And as she stated, quote, "I was scared to reach out for help. And growing up, the message that was branded on my heart was the idea that I had no worth. I was shameful, and all I was good for was sex."
Could you imagine being a young child like this and just believing that this is what you're meant for the world? Like, you have no worth.
Yeah. And then in 2010, light began to shine through the cracks of Jessa's life when she courageously orchestrated her escape with the help of a woman who operated a safe house in the United States. So while Jessa had lost complete faith in humanity, a glimmer of hope emerged, a kind soul who saw her trauma as if it was written across her forehead. And without judgment, she wanted to help her. She wanted to give her a way out and a second chance. This marked the beginning of her journey toward freedom, but it was not a straightforward path. Shortly after her initial escape, visa complications forced her to return back to Canada, where she was once again trafficked.
Are you kidding me?
No. So, in an attempt to stay safe, during her return back to Canada, she went to a safe house with the help of a woman who was helping her in Vancouver, and there she started to become friends with a woman at this safe house. They would talk, and she opened up because for the first time in forever, she met someone like her. But in the darkness of things, she was actually disguised as a female pimp.
So she was in the safe house.
Yes.
Basically looking for vulnerable women or vulnerable people to be victims.
Yes.
Wow.
So the 2010 Vancouver Winter Olympics became a setting for her exploitation, as large international events often create opportunities for traffickers to operate. And there she was forced to engage sexually at her expense, while her traffickers made the money. In Jessa's words, she described how athletes and coaches and other Olympic personnel would engage in sex acts with her and others. Despite this setback, Jessa managed to escape a second time, holding on to hope, and she returned back to the U.S., finding refuge one more time at a safe house. After her escape, she was faced with freedom. However, during the course of her life so far, she was denied education during her childhood. So she had to face the daunting task of rebuilding her life and starting from square one, earning her GED. After that, she enrolled at Nazarene Bible College, where she thrived, graduating summa cum laude in 2016 with a degree in clinical counseling. Her academic success didn't stop there. She went on to earn her master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and is now pursuing a PhD in counselor education and supervision. Education became not only a pathway to her own personal healing, but also a tool to help others navigate through life after they've experienced trauma. And that's what she did. So in 2011, Jessa co-founded Bridge Hope, which is an organization dedicated to raising awareness about human trafficking and providing support for survivors. Bridge Hope offers training programs to help communities recognize the signs of trafficking, and they also work to create networks of resources for survivors. And this organization is also starting to develop an app that aims to help individuals safely exit the sex industry. Jessa's work extends beyond her organization. As a public speaker, she has shared her story at numerous conferences and events, including the U.S. Air Force Academy National Character in Leadership Symposium in 2018. And she does this to educate about the realities of trafficking and the impacts that it has. One thing that I loved hearing her explain is the word warrior, because she overcame so much to get where she is today. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's so empowering and inspirational to those who may be in a similar situation, because she even explained that sometimes she felt like she could have died in situations, yet she created a strong life for herself with very little. And what is also so inspiring is the women at the shelters who saw her pain. A couple who was involved with the safe house that first offered her refuge. Their support played a pivotal role in her recovery. At the age of 21, she was adopted by them, which is amazing. In 2015, Jessa married John Crisp, a photographer and a PhD student. The couple resides in Colorado, where they continue to advocate for survivors and work to prevent trafficking. Jessa's story is a testament to resilience and the power of support, education, and advocacy. Jessa not only raises awareness, but also provides a roadmap for others to escape exploitation and reclaim their lives. Her journey underscores the importance of survivor-led initiatives in the fight against trafficking. Now, while I did that one training that I talked about earlier, there was a few things that I found very interesting, and one of those things was how some victims can have tattoos that are basically a brand that show that they belong to a certain pimp. And they showed this image of different tattoos that victims had, one being a barcode that isn't normally seen in the US, but in other countries, and it can act as a QR code to pay a pimp.
Like you can actually scan it?
Yeah, scan it on your cell phone. And there are other tattoos that are degrading and say property of so-and-so, like they're an object. And there's also different tattoos that they showed that could be found on pimps, just something to keep an eye out for. What was common was the letters MOB, which stands for money over bitches. And something else to look for is this common tattoo of a 5-pointed crown. Not saying that everyone who has a 5-pointed crown is a pimp, but it's just Again, something to look out for. And if you're interested in that training or Jessa's training, we will have those links in our description. The reality of child exploitation is both heartbreaking and complex. And breaking free from the cycle of abuse is often fraught with overwhelming obstacles. From the manipulation of trust to systemic failures, victims face a world where safety feels out of reach. But this isn't where the story has to end. Change begins with awareness, advocacy, and action. Standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Every effort we make, from educating ourselves and supporting survivors to holding systems accountable, moves us closer to a world where no child has to suffer in silence. Together, we can ensure that every child has the chance to heal, to thrive, and to reclaim the future that they deserve.
I agree.
And that's this week's episode of Invisible Shackles. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to Crime Salad now. And if you'd like to support our show more, you can tell a friend about Crime Salad or become a subscriber on Apple or on patreon.com.
Also, if you're enjoying Crime Salad, make sure to give us a review. I mean, it really, really helps us.
And I know this episode wasn't one that we typically do. And, our last episode was about bullying, but these are just things that I'm so passionate about that I've been wanting to do. And I've kept thinking I want to do those, but I've been putting them on the back burner. So, message us, let us know if this is something that you like. I know it's not like true crime, but I kind of like to change it up a little too, just because I'm just that type of person as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But thank you all so much for supporting Crime Salad. We greatly appreciate you, and we will see you next week.